Hello, everyone. I am here with the great Will Doran over there in the NC Capital team. I'm Jalen Jones, digital producer here at WRL. Please, if you're watching this video, like and subscribe. We are going to talk about prison reentry efforts here in North Carolina because me and Will, we are having some water cooler talk in the hallway.
That's how all the great podcasts start, right?
It does. We got to workshop these things, and this is a little bit behind the scenes of how we do these things. If we're talking about it, you guys are probably talking about it. And the main thing that we talked about is with prison reentry efforts, this is just a ballpark number. 90% of people that are in jail are going to get out. So I was workshopping in my head. If someone is arrested for a crime in 2009, doesn't matter the crime, and let's say they're released in 15 years in 2024, that scenario, what is North Carolina doing to help these people, majority of the people? And I pulled up some numbers. We're looking at around 30,000 people are in jail in North Carolina. Not disputing what they're in for, if the system is unjust, but 30,000 people are in jail. That's about the size of the town of Clayton.
Yeah, that's not nothing.
It's not nothing. So let's say a small town of Clayton. Most of these, 90% of those people are going to be released back in the public. What is North Carolina doing to make sure that people can not only reenter safely, communities are safe, and what is lowering the probabilities that they are in jail again? Those repeat offenders. Like this really got fleshed out from your web story on WRAL.com, where Governor Josh Stein, was really speaking on North Carolina's overall prison reentry efforts. As repeat offenders, we had a couple big cases in Charlotte. You want to talk a little bit about Charlotte? Recap.
Yeah, absolutely. This really is in the news right now because of two just completely tragic murders that we've had recently. In Charlotte, it was Irina Zarutska, Raleigh, Zoe Welsh. In both of these cases, the facts that the police are alleging are pretty similar.
Yes.
They're saying, it was a homeless person with a long history of mental issues and mostly more minor criminal issues, but a lot of criminal issues.
Yes, and to be specific, Ryan Camacho, the person that murdered, or should I say alleged, murdered Raleigh teacher Zoe Welsh, he had been arrested over 20 times.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a super repeat offender, and he's just being released back into society with mental health issues. Am I right?
Yes, and it's the exact kind of case that just kind of gets lost in the shuffle, it seems like, almost in the court system. And I mean, we've done a ton of reporting on the specific details of these cases, but you see so many, he's charged with X, Y, and Z, and then, just pleads down to something smaller so that, the prosecutors don't have to go through the trouble of a big, long trial, and he can just get out and be free. And this happens over and over and over again. It's mostly minor stuff. But obviously 20 times it adds up. There's all sorts of, indications that his mom had tried to step in and get him help. And it was the exact same case with DeCarlos Brown, who, is the alleged killer in the Charlotte case as well. Mom had stepped in and tried to get him help. Yes. But in both of these cases, just, they weren't able.
In both of these cases, they had an active community of people that were concerned, voiced their concerns, and tried to put action to those concerns. Right.
And even with people trying to help them, it still wasn't enough. And it still devolved into these situations where we're now seeing they're accused of committing what appears to be just completely random murders.
Exactly. And we're not mental health experts at all, and we want to do that. But we want to talk about Josh Stein. He said, we can create a real pathways to second chances. We can create a safer and stronger North Carolina. And that it was in his address to the state's Joint Reentry Council. I didn't know that they had a whole council about this, but I figured there's a lot of people talking about this like we are today. Was there anything interesting you pulled from Josh Stein and during his address to the Joint Council?
Yeah, well, you say that you didn't know we had this council. Who does know about the council is the First Lady, Anna Stein. And usually what we see in North Carolina is the First Lady will pick like one or maybe two topics to focus on and say, like, I want this. I'm going to use all my connections, my platform that I have to make one specific thing a big deal. And hers is prison reentry. And, it's kind of prescient now that we have these cases that's really putting a bigger statewide focus on this issue. And so what this council does is it's actually basically part of the prison system.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, okay, yes, we recognize we need to punish people when they commit crimes by putting them in prison. But like you said, 90% of people who go behind bars are coming back out into society.
Yes.
So, what can we do to make sure that as soon as they get out, they're not going to just be stuck on the street, be homeless, have no money, and just, either spiral into their mental health issues that they have or just feel a financial need to return to crime. Mm-hmm. Poverty is obviously a root cause of a lot of the reason why people commit crimes in the first place. So the idea is that, okay, if we can, put people out and, make sure that they have, Medicaid so that they can go and get substance abuse treatment or mental health treatment once they're out back in society. If we can, help them work while they're behind bars, not just sit in your prison cell, but get a job.
Exactly.
And store some money up so that you can,
you have something.
Right.
Exactly. You got to get an apartment. You got to get a car. So let's say, for that example, if someone was arrested in 2009 and they're released in 2024, you need a laptop to survive. You need a smartphone to survive, and those things aren't cheap. You got to restart your life. And to get specific, Josh Stein really is trying to merge these mental health and our behavioral systems with our correctional facilities and bring those in. He says here specifically, his heart goes out to the family of Zoe Welch and things, and hopes that justice as much justice as possible for Miss Welch and her family. But what's clear is that we as a state need to invest more in our mental health and behavioral health systems. And I think it was a little bit, he said this at the first mental health hospital in Dix Park.
Right.
And so he's trying to set that up for his speech. And I love the background for it because it's very important.
Yeah, well, the entire, well, not the entire problem, but a big part of the problem is we just simply don't have enough beds in our mental hospitals here in the state. So, someone commits a crime, and it's because they are undergoing a mental break. Maybe they think people are following them or whatever is going on.
Mental health reasons.
Right. And so you say, okay, probably, this person just needs treatment. And then, as long as they're getting treated for their mental issues, they're not going to, commit this crime again. Mm-hmm. But then when you try to get them that treatment that they need, oh, no, there's no beds, nowhere to put you, so we're just going to stick you in jail. Mm-hmm. And then we'll just put you back out on the street once you're done, and then the cycle just repeats.
And correctional facilities, they're not mental health facilities. They are not places for someone to get help.
Right.
And have you heard of the NC Rise program?
Tell me about it.
So NC Rise program, I was watching PBS. They put out a nice piece about a month ago, and the NC Rise program essentially brings those mental health resources into the jail. It's in Cumberland and Wake County. I know that for sure. But I saw that program, and I was like, okay, this is a good step to bring those mental health beds that aren't built yet, but at least bring your programs in, so they're not wasting their time.
Right.
We know where these people. Okay, I don't want to say this. People are sitting there in jail. We know what they're doing. We know what some of their issues are. Why have them sitting there for 5 years with no help?
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So that's a little bit of my rant there. But yes, that was what I found out about the NC Rise program. So there are some solutions on the horizon, or at least people are working towards them.
Yeah, and what you hear a lot is people say, okay, well, you're talking about, people when they're, sitting in prison for, committing crimes. Why are we going to be sending them to classes and, to therapy and helping them make money and get jobs? That's just being soft on crime. Mm-hmm. But the reality, like we said, is 90% of these people getting out. This year alone, I think that the governor said there's going to be close to 20,000 people who are released from state prisons this year. That's as long as things go according to plan.
Yes.
And so, that's 20,000 people that could return to crime if they need to, or if they don't get the treatment that they need for their issues, or that could not, and, could wind up becoming more productive members of society. Or if they can't do either, maybe they just need to be institutionalized somewhere.
Exactly.
But the funding issue comes in. We don't have enough physical beds. We don't have enough people who can work those kinds of jobs to help them. It's not a necessarily fun or easy job working in a mental hospital.
No, not at all. And, I'm glad we're pivoting to funding, because Republican representatives John Torbett and is it Aaron Perret?
Yes.
Perret. They are saying that increased funding for mental health and public safety should be included in the new budget, because I think Republicans, and I don't know if I'm giving them more credit or things there, but I think they see like, hey, we have some gaps in the system. We want to have a good judicial system. We want to have a good system for punishment and rehabilitation, and that requires taxpayer dollars.
It does. And we don't have a new budget right now, and the legislature is coming back in a couple of months this spring, and that's going to be number one priority for them, is figure out this budget. And so John Torbett, Aaron Paré, these two lawmakers I spoke to, they're both top state budget writers. They're not just some random backbenchers. I mean, these are the people who are in the room in charge of making these decisions, and they're telling me, yeah, we recognize that we have not been putting enough money into mental health in North Carolina. And, you know, obviously it's tragic that it has taken, you know,
two lives,
you know, to get this attention. But the fact of the matter is, it does now have the attention of some of the most powerful people in the state. And they're saying that we are going to focus on this when we come back, and we're going to try to get this done.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to that, because here's the thing. We talk about problems, but just as much as we talk about problems, we love solutions. And we love to talk about those solutions. So if you're watching this or listening to this and have solutions, please email us at any time, and we'll love to talk about you, and not talk about you, talk with you, and see what your future is for North Carolina, because at the end of the day, we're all in this together, and we all have to build a better North Carolina together. Am I right?
Exactly. You know, we talk to state lawmakers all the time, but we also talk to regular people. And, you know, we want to hear people's ideas, people's tips, you know, people's experiences with the system and making things better. And, you know, you don't have to reach out to us either. You can reach out to your lawmakers directly. You know, there's a committee coming up at the legislature in just a few days that I'll be covering, where they'll be talking about involuntary commitment issues and what kind of reforms we need to do there to make sure that when someone is arrested and it seems like, okay, you know, they could, you know, be someone who needs some serious mental help, how can we make it so that they are more likely to actually stay in a mental hospital, and not, like in the case of Ryan Camacho here in Raleigh, just get bounced back onto the street like we've seen.
And you know, you wrote this, and I'm just skimming through your article. Getting people stable employment, the theory goes, will have a knock-on effect in helping them not become homeless or feel financial pressure to return to criminal activities. Because at the end of the day, when you get stressed out, you go with what you know.
Right.
And obviously what you know got you in this situation in jail, and now you're back out and you're in a high-stress situation, trying to find a job, trying to find a place to live, trying to find housing. We don't want you to go back to what you know. We want you to be joining society, and you've paid for your crimes. Yeah. And I think that's just so important.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, we've seen too, I mean, you know, the state isn't just kind of complaining about this. They're trying to make some actual changes, and part of that is by making it easier for people with a record to get a job with the state. Because we know, first of all, that the state has tons of vacant jobs that they need to fill. And, you know, you may not get hired as, you know, the next the governor's chief of staff or something, the governor's bodyguard, if you've got a conviction. But, you know, there are a ton of jobs, that, people could be qualified to do. And so, you know, one thing that actually started under former Governor Roy Cooper, but Stein has kept it up, is basically changing some of the state hiring rules to make it easier for people with a record to make that known. You got to be transparent about it. You can't hide your past, but say, hey, look, according to you, the state government, I've paid my debt to society. Here are my skills. Here's how I think I can help.
There we go.
And it's not just an automatic rejection.
There we go. And I would love to see that, especially we have tons of infrastructure projects, and hopefully people in jail, they can get those skills and help build our society as well. And they've paid their debt to crime. Please rejoin us. We would love to have you. Is there anything else that we've missed in this?
No, I mean, this is, like I said, it's something that has been kind of neglected by the state for a long time, and it's led to all of these backlogs and underfunding and these problems. But it's something that politicians are paying attention to. It's something that us in the media are paying attention to now. And I think this is honestly going to be one of the biggest stories in 2026.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait, because here's the thing. Also, in your web story, guys, go on WRAL.com. You're going to see Stein notes North Carolina's prison reentry efforts as repeat offenders come under scrutiny. That's the title of his web article. He has some solutions already in here. I was very impressed. And you have a piece about space tech, spec tech, in this web article as people are trying to get back into society, potentially having a job when they get out. We spitball some ideas here, and I can't wait to see what else we come up with. Talking about prison reentry efforts.
It's a big topic.
It is a big topic. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know we yapped a little bit, and hopefully in the audience, you guys enjoyed this. Like and subscribe. And if you have any ideas or solutions or things that we should look into, if you're a nonprofit that is specializing in helping prison reentry efforts as they get back into society, please hit us up at WRAL-Reported.com. We'd love to talk with you.
I think that covers it.
I know that covers it. All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Nice chatting with you, man.